Hello there friends, Steve here. I thought I'd try a little experiment today. See if I could just set up in the woods. I got my backpack with me. It's great to just come out and spend time in the forest. I thought I'd spend time with you. Normally I go for a walk and talk about, what's on my mind there. But most often I come out and I set up my little area, the things I enjoy, make a cup of coffee. So that's what I'm going to do now anyway. I won't talk about it, I'll do it. I got a few things with me obviously. I don't mean to do any advertising. The main thing is I feel this bag is like got everything that I need for just like a day out. But there's some fascinating things in there, like just this whole piece of polythene to sit on. Sorry about the noise. It could be a long video. Here we go. See, it's a bit noisy, but it makes it dry and it stops all the creepy crawlies. Move across this, right, just get ourselves established a little bit. I always bring out things, make life better, a board to draw on, a wafting board. It's also good for setting things down. Got some bread that I can toast, and chocolate, and some writing tools and pens and drinks and smokes. Some things to read. Got the scriptures in German there. What am I looking for? I'm looking for me cup. There's a metal cup. You can stick it on the fire, and it's good. You can always heat water, and it's important to heat water because it's the best way of purifying it. So if you get any water from anywhere, a metal cup is one of the best things that you can actually have in a survival situation. Something you can actually put on a fire. I'd say it's almost more important than a knife. Okay, and so we've got all the little tools, methylated spirits, and a stove. It's a little homemade stove. You can see how to make these on the internet out of some tin cans. The main thing is it's a little bit dangerous making fire just in the woods, Depends where you are in the world, what the weather is. So this is, a first major thing is like looking at fire. To me, fire is a really important aspect about like life as a human. And these days, fire has been, we don't have much access to fire. People generally have central heating and, electric heating. But fire still remains really important. It's just our connection. As kids and stuff, we used to play with fire, and I think it's really important to burn our fingers and learn how things catch fire. In the woods, it's really important. It's quite damp today, so it's not a bad day to make a little stove. But I don't like to make an open fire on days like this. That's why it's good to have methylated spirits. So I'm going to move this across, I think. Can you still see that? I know it's getting a little bit uneven. So pop a little bit in there. Better put that out of the way. And so one of the main ideas with coming out and doing this, you can maybe see that's burning now. Oh no, it's just stopped. Sometimes I had to get a light, so the whole thing has to warm up before it goes. I've got a match in and it won't light. Right, thank you. See if that works. Yeah, you know, it's like a realisation for me. What is it that makes my life quality? You know, what is it that gives me a good day? At the end of the day, I see it like, you know, life is a day-to-day thing. And so if we can have one good day and replicate it without making life boring, and so for me, I look at the things I enjoy. You know, like I like to have a cup of coffee. I like to have a piece of toast, some chocolate. You know, probably a lot of things that are not exactly good for you, but where's my water? And so it's very easy to have a good life with just from a bag. You know, why do we struggle so much? You know, obviously want to improve life and have more than just this, but we make our lives so difficult. And at the end of the day, this is what I'm happy with. You know, normally I'd have a guitar. You know, sometimes it's hassle bringing it out, but I enjoy reading, playing guitar. I enjoy being with friends. I've always got 2 cups. You know, this one's a thermal cup, so it's, you know, I can use it. I can cook and things a little bit, so I've got enough for like 2 people to sit and have a nice little picnic. Got some nice coffee. Filter coffee, you know, it's the really good quality coffee. Stick some of that in there. See, I don't filter it. Just put it in there. Yeah, so I've got the coffee on. A lid might make it work faster. The old pipe. It's got pieces of tin foil, it's always really useful. I often wonder if somebody was just to see me here, whether they'd think I was crazy, but I would just invite them for a cup of coffee with me. And it's interesting then looking inside the bag of what kinds of things you need. You know, I've actually even got an umbrella. You know, it changes with the seasons, you know, and here at the moment it's more likely to just be a warm, hot rain. So an umbrella, you know, I could sit here now and build a mini shelter with this umbrella. I've got knives and saws, things like that, and candles, you know, and blankets and simple things like that. All kinds of stuff to make fires with, compass and map, you know, quite important to have some survival things, you know, survival. But one of the things I wanted to cover, how long are we into the video? I don't know, 10 minutes, never mind. You know, one of the things that ends up in the bag as a traveller is, you know, is your passport. You know, there you can see I've got a British passport, and if you've got a British passport, you know this lion and this unicorn thing, and you know what it looks like. You know, the inside and stuff. There's, you know, a picture of me and that. Now, if you look at this thing, it's pretty weird. But when you're on your travels, you know, you're always like kind of glancing at it, but never really looking into much detail. You know, half of it's in French, the diplomatic language of the world. There's a lot of like coding and strange symbology and stuff. But generally, you know, we expect to just use it at borders and things. And I got a little bit fed up, you know, with trying to be free. I suppose I was trying to escape the system. I was trying to escape. I kind of thought, if everybody else likes this game and I don't, then I'm the one who doesn't fit. I've got to get out. This was, you know, I knew there was a lot of other people who didn't like the system, but I knew that if I couldn't escape, or I couldn't do something to empower myself, then I couldn't help anybody else anyway, because we're not, you know, I just didn't feel like there was any strength in numbers, because not enough people could see what I was talking about, you know. And now there's a lot of us talking about this stuff, and so I'm able to slowly, little bit by bit, release or disclose parts of what I feel is like important truths. But at the same time, I don't want to jump to conclusions and let the cat out of the bag, or spoil the joke, or whatever. But I got to the point where I just felt like this was the only thing that I just couldn't lose. You know, I could like escape everything else, but I still kind of needed this, you know. And it was really, ooh, nearly had a catastrophe then, people. Boiling over, it's got coffee in it already. You know, so it's this, you know. Okay, I'm just making some toast here, you know. Which one do I toast? I really, look at how it glitters, you know, look how it glitters like gold, you know. And it, you know, it's quite, it seemed so powerful, so powerful. The words on the front, honeysuckle mali pense. French, you know, what's French doing on a UK passport? I was asking myself, what does passport really mean? Oh. I don't know if I'm going to be able to do this by hand. Okay, yeah, honeysuckle mali pense means shame on he who of it evil thinks, or evil his who thinks evil of it. Shame on he who evil thinks of it. So all this time I'm looking at this paperwork thinking, you know, why am I so bound? Why is this paperwork making my life so hell? Why is it so satanistic? Why is it seems to me so powerful and evil, and I just sort of kind of realised it's only paper. It's only a logo. You know, it's only a picture. It's only words. All paper. It's only words. It can't be evil. It's just a logo. But strangely enough, when you start looking into all of this, all of the things, the symbology, the Bible, the legislation, a lot of it appears to be evil. Why is that? Why is it possible to see all these bad things that we see? All these satanic symbols, all of these rumours of rituals and stuff, what does it all mean? Because surely, if like, where is it? You can, Google the symbol, but you can see Honeysuckle Mali Pons is written in a circle. It's a seal, but it's actually a garter, and it can be unbuckled, which means that to me you can free yourself. It's like a yoke. Yoke. It's like a thing that fastens two animals together. And our legal fiction's fastened by this yoke. It's a joke. And unbuckle that joke and you're free from the joke. But the thing is the buckle is Honeysuckle Mali Pons in French. He who sees evil is evil. Now, if you think about it, like I've said this on other videos, it's not, like if you use that as a law, if you have that as a law, don't see evil, then anybody who sees you as being evil is also breaking that rule. So to unbuckle this and to hold by this, we have to not see any of this anything connected with the lion and the unicorn or heraldry or any of these logos or symbols or any of this Bible legislation. To presume it as being evil would instantly mean that we're the evil ones. It's kind of given us a clue of how to break that cycle. In a way, I've always seen it like, at some point I've seen it like the father nation. I left my father nation to go on my journeys. And I kind of realised that I don't need that nation anymore, that I've grown out of it into other nations. We're always going to be dependent on something. But it's not necessarily your own nation, it's just people we're dependent on. We're not dependent on a nation, a father state. We're dependent on it until we're old enough to understand. And then we can become independent from that state. So this feeling of dependency was for me the big problem, and I wanted to burn that passport. I wanted to burn my face off the back. It's got all kinds of holograms over it. It's like, it makes me feel kind of strange having this, and people holding this to, authority holding this to be of importance. I had to learn what this all meant. What does it really mean? Is it just a document to identify me? Why can't I identify myself? Isn't it easy to fake a passport? No one can fake me. You see what I mean? So I'm asking myself, okay, it's evil, but you can't think that, because that's what the clue is. It'd be just too easy to presume evil. So it's given us an intellectual clue. And saying to a certain degree that if we just like take everything as read, piously believe tales, then we're not really using reason. We're not using our intellect. And intelligence and reason was given to us by creation itself, or the creator. No matter how you would see a creation, the intelligence we have is been inherited, given to us. So to presume that anything that emanates from that as being evil is also kind of like just taking it into your own hands to say something. It's like that's why I refer to eating from the fruit of the poison tree, or eating from the fruit of the tree of good and bad, or good and evil, because it's like, how can I explain? If we're making a judgment like that, a moral judgment based on paper, what we read on paper, then it's not a moral judgment. It's a judgment based off what we read off paper. You know, if that what we see on paper is the same as what it is in real life, then we judge real life. There's no need to judge what's on paper at that point. Piece of chocolate in the coffee is quite nice sometimes. What I meant, I still like a bit of sugar in my coffee. I'm a sweet tooth. I was when I had teeth. But there's so much to learn about, and everyone's got little different interests and different passions, you know. And for some reason, I just ended up in being interested in language, words, and cryptology, you know, how things are coded and decoded. And I came to realise with this one, when it comes to society and people and morals and law and spirituality, the argument's not about how clever you are or how many words you know or anything like that. That's it. I believe everybody's got the capability of reason, you know. Usually we just don't know the questions to ask, but we could actually get to the answers if we used the time. Just that we use books and other people, their wisdoms, to trust in. Because obviously, you know, there's a lot of people all put a lot of ideas together, and it takes time to contemplate ideas. But if I was to ask you 10 questions, you could probably invent, you know, some amazing things that were considered amazing inventions years ago. You know, we just need to know the right questions to ask. The other thing is that the system being an old system and like working like a clock working with different languages all together, you know, it's often perceived that one nation is separate from another and develops differently, but all the nations are connected in a kind of a big storyline. You know, we see two major differences, you know, like systems and nations built on scriptures, built on the idea of a god or a deity or a creator. Whereas in the Asian, you know, Eastern philosophies of like China and Hinduism and stuff, it's a lot more about like the emperor has the wisdom. The emperor is granted the wisdom by God, but the actual rule of law has nothing to do with deities or God, you know. But nevertheless, we see in for example, the Bible as one of many different scriptures, but it's our very important scripture in the Western civilization. And somehow I feel like I and others, we've been kind of taught to dislike it, taught to see it like a pious, historic thing that nobody can understand. You know, for starters, when you're talking about a literary work, when you make a film about it, it definitely changes its quality. And some things just can't be transferred in film. The other thing as well is like when we're dealing with a legal fiction, a legal system, you know, where our names and addresses and dates of birth have like give us an identity that can actually exist on paper through time after our death. When we have a kind of a system that incorporates that kind of magical ability of you know, human expression in the person. we have this legal fiction as well, this legal person that's created in order to create to resolve disputes in law. You know, personas have different functions. You know, masks have functions. You know, on a stage, different masks is to represent different characters. You could have villain, hero, you know, fool, the saviour, all of these different characters for on stage. And obviously when we're debating and disputing law, we don't want to address the man personally or have to bring in people every time to speak all the time about every accusation made. A courtroom can actually deal with an accusation without you being there. Because some of the accusations just wouldn't make sense anyway, and if there's no evidence, no alibi, and you was not even there, then why should you even defend yourself all the time from attacks to your legal person, you know? So the legal system's been set up to make many things possible that aren't just possible to resolve a dispute in real life, you know. And that legal fiction it's a paper world. So therefore, when we're looking at like things like the Bible, we shouldn't be then taking them out into a real world. We should be creating a parallel to the legal fiction in the legal fiction world. Do you see what I mean? If you would, for example, if you're creating a statue out of plaster of Paris or bronze or gold or anything, you need to make a form, usually with two halves. You make the form and then you pour in the gold or the plaster of Paris, and then you've got the form. Then you take the two halves away. Now if you mistake the form for the, you know, if you mistake the mould for the statue, then obviously you've got your inside out, and there's certain differences to the mould as there are to the statue. Now there's two halves and it has a centre drop point and things, so obviously it mechanically works different. And so when you approach things like the Bible and the way the Bible kind of reads, as you read it, as it's read, there's two ways of reading it, depending on how you know, or maybe more ways of reading it as well, because obviously you can read anything into anything. You can say a poem and say, oh, that's a lovely poem, but it wasn't devised for that. It was maybe a combination lock on a thing. So that the idea that a piece of literature has exterior meaning or morals or can be connected to, that would be obvious anyway because we're alive. And so my claim really is that the Bible is a literary connection between the literary world of Logos and the spiritual world, human expression. I'll say that again. You know, when you write something on a piece of paper, it goes from your spirit into a stationary world. That poem exists forever. Even when you've forgotten it, it's there. So you've created a bridge with your mind, you know, with your thoughts, with your intents, and your hand, and your wisdom. Onto that paper, you've created a bridge. A spark has gone between you and that paper, leaving what you write is left. So you write it and it's left. And someone will come and read it, what you've left and read. It'll be read. You see now these word plays give you an idea of how we can read it, or we can write it, or we can wrong it, and we can left it. So the literature is a reflection of the real world. And sometimes we kind of get lost in that reflection. We kind of make ourselves that reflection. We make ourselves a persona and forget there's somebody on the inside with feelings. They say beauty knows no pain, you know. It's Vanity Fair, and everything's become very optical. So as we become more and more optical in society, it's no wonder that the stress has become more and more on these aspects, and that the legal fiction and that the literary side of life has more and more power. So have a think about it, you know, that connection between, you know, the Bible or law in general, all legal law, all Bible, all paperwork is a kind of bridge between the literal world and the spiritual world. See, knowing this, if you take everything that you see as being like, literally satanic or evil, or all of these connections that we see, the number of the beast, it's all mentioned in there. You have to ask yourself why have so many people seemingly got the legal permission to play Satan, to actually use this symbology, because we're not crazy. We are seeing symbology, and it is what you would consider to be satanistic symbology. But you really have to turn wisdom off and turn wisdom on, intellect on, and turn your piety off. Like the word pi in the mirror looks like 3.14, which is the decimal formula for the ratio to circumference, or pi. So if you've got the mathematical, logical ability to find something, then you're probably on the right track. You can either eat the pie, or you can gain the knowledge from the pie by changing the reflection. I often think that the system's a little bit unfairly cryptical, but maybe that's why I'm here making these videos. Maybe that's why but essentially I feel that a lot of the things that I've researched are only to give me clarity and belief, because I knew, in a way, what I know now, I knew all along. It's nothing new. It was obvious all along, in fact so obvious that you couldn't be the answer, because nobody else had found it, because it was just too obvious. Now I can't say exactly what it is, because it is just obvious. Everything's obvious. On most of the things, some of the things we're deluded with, but most of the things that you feel are just wrong and they're obvious are literally as you think they are. They're obvious, and that's the way they are. It's just that until you can work out why you're right and how to actually apply that, then it remains a mystery. So I started to look into the Bible, into laws, and not in just one language, in 2, 3, 4 different countries, in different languages, to try and find out if what that obvious thing is that I found is correct, is right, is actually accepted by governments, is accepted by churches, is accepted by the system and established. And that truth being that some of us are different. This is one of the truths, is that people like me, we're not the same as the other people, and we're not supposed to be. But we're not evil. We're just here to bring something different. So after a lot of research and studying and feeling, what I'm saying must be right, and I'm putting out little bits over the years, and nobody else has proved me to be wrong, so I'm only left with something that can be the only answer, ever. And all of the answers are like flawed anyway, so you come to this conclusion where it has to be the right answer. But then to explain it is a difficult thing, because as you know, it's obvious already. So it's really about a relationship between you and authority, a relationship between you and the whole paper system that controls you. It's a relationship. It's not about what that paper world expects from you, or how it works, or what it means, but that relationship between you. It's quite a simple relationship, almost like father-son, or father-daughter, mother-daughter, in a parent-child relationship, in a way, because it was here before you. But for starters, it's not really a living entity, so it has to have respect for you as a living entity. Okay, so the Bible's really too confusing for anybody to understand, and so is the legislation. International legislation, national legislation, it's all combined, but it's too difficult to understand. So it's only understood by individuals in different places who can come together like a puzzle piece. So it stays alive that way. It's a living puzzle piece, If one of those pieces disappears, it's replaced by another piece, and then the whole thing keeps going. So really I can only come down to, when it comes to, like, for example, the the Bible, or the things in the Western culture that I feel that they've the school system and authority and everything else, what they've kind of really tried to pump into us was things like Ten Commandments, Lord's Prayer. And that's about it. That's all the Bible really ever meant to me. And so, and looking at things in reverse as well, looking at the whole Bible in reverse, starting from the end and looking at it backwards, in a way, the most important law is love thy neighbour as you would love yourself. That was the last law laid down by Jesus. Second to last was love God with all your heart, might and soul. That takes a bit of thinking about that one. But then you've got the Lord's Prayer, which I will deal with on a video, but it'll probably take a long time, because it's a very, very, very powerful powerful piece of text, let's say. It's like a maxim, it's like a powerful mathematical thing that can't be broken. And it's a fantastic piece of wisdom that for years I just thought it was like a pious, like pious statements to a deity or something. But when you read it, you can understand that it's really covering everything. And so then before that, you've got the Ten Commandments, which seem to be like really the cogs of the system. Don't kill, don't steal, don't commit adultery, don't dishonour thy parents, don't desire thy neighbour or his wife, don't worship false images, don't take thy name in vain, worship no other God but me. These very simple ones are like very clues to how to live in the world, and I think they're good places to start. So I'll probably make some videos about the Ten Commandments and the Lord's Prayer as being very relevant with our relationship between you and the system, or me and the system, because it's our government. Yeah, I got to this point really where I hated the system, I hated government. People really annoyed me when they could only say, we need government, and they weren't interested in looking for solutions. There's not enough people gathering in numbers to protest against government. Nobody seems to know how the legal system works. We see endless videos from alternative media, mainstream media, promising this, that and the other, or saying this, that and the other, and nothing seems to happen. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm going crazy. I'm not getting any more powerful watching all this crap. I'm not getting anywhere. But there seemed to me a lot of sense in a lot of what people were saying. It's just that each one seems to be making an innocent mistake. And now looking at it, I think it's like 90% of what they were saying were right, but because it wasn't quite working, they'd fall into this presuming evil thing again. The whole system doesn't work, it's all corrupt, it's all fake. Well, the fact that it might be fake, all tricks, all systems are fake, if you want to say that, prefabricated. But at the same time, something's bothering me. I'm thinking to myself, if I'm in a little community of people, say 10, 20 people, if I'm in this little community of people, it's very difficult to look after 10 other people. If you've got 3 or 4 people looking after 10 people, it might work. But it's much easier if 8 people look after 10 people. So there's only 2 people who maybe need looking after. And in a group of people, usually there's 1 or 2 people with some kind of illness who need some looking after. So I'm thinking to myself, how many politicians are there? How many civil servants are there? How many people are there to actually carry out or make government decisions, political decisions over the polis, over the people? How many people do we need to make decisions over people? Because I know one person can't make all decisions for 10 people, let alone 100 people or 1,000 people. So really, just thinking, flies buzzing around. So just thinking about it logically, there's not really enough politicians or civil servants to run the show. Well, there's enough people to run the show, but not to run reality. There's just not enough. There's not enough hands-on. There's not enough minds working. We've got a system where we've got a few bureaucrats and stuff making very basic decisions, very childish decisions, very simplistic decisions for the well-being of everybody. So really, either the system needs to go, or maybe there's something in place that gives certain people certain access. Like if you don't already work in the government, you can access it. Like a restaurant, if you don't work there, you can actually order food there, but you can't order food from a restaurant if you actually work there. Not unless it's your day off. But let's say, the system, governance, whatever, a political body needs as much external help as it can get, enough decision making from the outside. Essentially, government itself is just a central point where resources come in and go out. It's us, the people, that need to decide where those resources go. But when nobody accesses that system, then resources get made by decision, by representatives. Now, people think, oh yeah, you can only access politics by A, becoming a politician, or B, having voting an elected representative. But I noticed something in Black's Law that I was reading about the difference between a republic and a democracy, and both, it seems, are accessed by a political representative or directly. It says it in Black's Law, 7th edition. These systems can be accessed directly. I don't know what that means. I can only make presumptions. But the presumption being that either this government needs to go, or it needs to let us in to reallocate its power. Now, obviously, it can't be that easy to access government power because everybody would be doing it, and we can see what happens when corrupt people get power. And so maybe we're lucky that we've got such a tricky system. But from what I can see is that as things heat up, as things move towards, the pinnacle of chaos, if you like, this revealing certain information, then the whole thing's going to backfire. A lot of people who work in the bureaucratic sector is going to have no more jobs because it'll all be computerized. So they'll be the ones who suddenly feel what it's like to be at the bottom, to be right at the bottom, The richest of the people are the ones who are going to fall right to the bottom. The people who are relying on usury. Usury, by the way, is earning money by money. If I lend you 100 quid, you give me 200 back. That's usury. Now, if I lend you 100 quid and you give me 110 back, that might be fairness, because you might have earned 150 out of that 100, and you might have capitalised on it. You might have made some product and sold it, and so don't misunderstand making profit on a product as usury. Usury is lending money at extortionate prices. And it's you can't, you can use a hammer, but using a hammer isn't usury because you can't swap one hammer for two hammers. You couldn't say to someone, hey, do you want to swap one hammer for two? And they'd say, oh, that's a great deal, because it wouldn't make sense, obviously. But you can do that with money, because money obviously isn't the same as anything else. It's got magical powers. It's backed by cosmic energy. So it's that relationship that we have with everything that's important. It's so easy to develop a negative or a positive relationship, and I don't think we should when it comes to this sort of stuff. It should be based off intellect, it should be based off reason, it should be based off mathematics, and we shouldn't take things as red. That's why it's probably red. It's gold. Golden. But it says, worship. worship is not always like, oh, praise. Worship is obedience. Worship is love. But also to hate is also worship. To go completely against somebody is to be obedient against them in a negative way. So we have to be careful that we're not accidentally worshipping the wrong things, the wrong idol, the wrong entity, the wrong principle, the wrong creator, whatever you want to call it. We don't want to be worshipping anything other than the source, the thing. That's what got us kicked out in the first place of like paradise. It's like listening to anybody else. Everything was in the heart. It's just that you doubt it because it was just so obvious that, It takes a little bit of finding as well, because we learn language, we learn maths. There's a lot of things that we can learn, but if we understand the limits of our understanding, then we can be 100% wise again. Any wizard will tell you that wizard, being a powerful wizard or being wise isn't about having great knowledge or great power or great lots of information, but it's about being able to see things for what they are, and knowing that the way you see things changes the nature of the thing that you see, and that it's not always about the quality of the thing. It's about the relationship or the quality of the relationship between things, between actions, between people. So to put it in a nutshell, or to bake it in a pie, very little is expected of us, really. But one thing is that there's no escape, there's no running away. We're there to all come together. Each has to use his own skills and understand his own weaknesses, and to let somebody else use their strengths, because often we're very good at judging someone else's skills without being able to actually even do their skills. So therefore we are ample at being able to know who to follow and how to lead. Government needs us. Government needs us. Those people who think they're rich, those people that think they're at the top, maybe they don't know. Maybe it's us that are making the presumption about their lives. Like when we make the presumption that the Queen's got all this wealth, but on another hand we'll say that money's an illusion. So which moral are we going to stand by? And the Queen knows it's all a big show. Can anybody stop this show? Or is it about everybody just going to get in the right idea? And so that's why I try and stay a little bit positive, but I try and address the negative. I try and be really realistic. I'm trying to kind of push what I feel is an important notions. And we've come a long way, I feel. We've come through this phase where we're starting to understand that we have this persona, that we have life, and that things are a little bit bigger. We understand a lot more than we realise, and we're very, very close to understanding that final gap between the paper world and the spiritual world, and how it sort of closes with the envelope and the letterbox. There's, just because I say don't presume evil and stuff, doesn't mean to say there's no evil in the world, or that you can't presume that you can use self-defense, or that you have to stop something. The decision is up to you. It's not up to someone else. At the end of the day, this is a really important point to realise, that if you're going to make a conclusion, or you're going to make a call on something, that you're betting your life. It's your life that you're betting. 1,000 other people could say what's right and wrong, but at the end of the day, if they're all wrong, then they're all wrong. And if you know you're right, you're better off sticking to that, because it's your life that you bet. That's something that's just inalienable, is life. You can't transfer death to someone else like that. It's your life. So make the bet that you feel is like life and death to you. And I go for the obvious one in me. But some of the things are not quite so obvious. That's why I say don't presume evil, because it's very easy to obviously presume evil. And if you leave that one away, then you realise that anything that's obvious that you're wrong about is anyway got to be out of love and good, because you've cast away this evil presumption. You know, if something's approaching you and you presume it has been evil, then you maybe attack out of the wrong reasons, where it's not. It's just you visually misinterpreting it. And so there's as much strength in love. You know, if you're in the world with love, there's still no reason why you can't grab somebody and throw them to the floor and stop them from doing damage. It doesn't mean to say that you sit down, and this is one of the things that kind of gets me with the New Age movement. It kind of puts across this idea that you can sit back and avoid all negativity and stay out the way of it, and it'll all solve itself. But there's a lot of people been born into difficult situations they can't walk away from. You know, it's very easy to just get a ticket to, like, you know, some like warm place down south and wear beads, play bongos, and you know, feel good, and there is a real feeling there, and we all need to heal ourselves. We all need to reach that place of being able to see eternity from that observation tower. But then we have to realise that we're not here to so that everybody else sees our happiness or enlightenment in our eyes. We're here to do the work. We are what we do. It is what we do. It isn't what it is. It is what we do with our hands. You know, so. It's not about reaching some kind of amazing status to me. It's about just being able to work with our hands, access the power, being able to make some kind of resolve with the government, find out what we can do to access that power and to reallocate that power and do good things in the world and not dream it all away. You know, it's very practical in my opinion. But like I say, there's this bridge to be made from the paper world to the spiritual world, and when we understand how that bridge is created, then we'll feel a lot more confident to start to use our rights. You know, the might is right. It doesn't mean to say force is correct. It just means that might, the power, is in our right hand. You know, what's left is here. You know, might is right. But we've had that might taken away from us because we've been presuming evil and doing the wrong things with that right. As soon as we can get that gap, as soon as we can learn some fundamentals of how to live together, as soon as we can overcome a few of the inner demons that we have, then the rest is just plain sailing. It's been nice to sit and have a cup of coffee and talk for so long and enjoy my time with you guys. I think it's interesting, I think it's important to talk a little bit longer. I don't want to say a short message, you know. I think you get a lot more when I just sort of spread it out a little bit. Even if I do repeat certain things, then you can see how them certain elements fit back in with the clockwork, how it comes back round, and I see that's how that word fits in now. The pie is turning, you know. Anyway, I suppose it's going to be a lot of time to upload. These always take ages to upload, and I would fancy actually getting back into a live stream so that I don't have to upload and it's, you know, live. Bandwidth's never very good, but I might try that. In any case, I never really know exactly what to talk about, and if there's anything that you know, would like to address, you know, or for me to address, to talk about a little bit, I can definitely be happy to do that. I'm not really interested in talking about my own personal life, you know, but I will share all kinds of different experiences and things with you. What's more important is what's important to you. That's what's important to me, is what is important to you, you know. And I think, obviously I talk about law and words and stuff, you know, and I'm very interested in art and music as well, which I don't really talk about much here. You know, I'd like to maybe do more. But for me, there's an absolute importance on art and music and literature and words and poems, and how coming together and sharing that aspect of life. That's an essential part of it, and I think that's as well where we can, how do you say it, breed a new mentality, spread a new kind of vibe through the artwork, taking it away from one kind of power into a new kind of power. There's a lot of ways that we can make this world a better place. This actually talking about words, talking about problems, talking about law, talking about spirituality is probably one of the last necessities in a way. But that's why it's been left till last. An alpha omega, first is last, last is first. Okay. Ow, my foot's gone to sleep. That's been a good talk. Thanks a lot for being here. Leave your comments in the box below. Like I say, anything you want me to talk about, just write it down. Cheerio. See you later.